All set. Hey, welcome to the Lowdown. I'm here. Eric's here as usual, and today we're super stoked. Hi, Eric. It's kind of like the Brady Bunch thing.
Yeah.
Hi, Joe.
Well, considering that nobody knows that, listening to the episode on their
Fair
iPhone,
enough.
That's
right. It's like listening to a sporting event on the radio. We got to be a bit more descriptive for those folks.
That's right.
Sound effect,
And we're super stoked to have Joe Vervoordt here from MV Guitars. And where are you from, Joe? Like we were just talking a little bit.
Originally North Jersey, about that time, about 10 minutes out, because everything in the Northeast around New York you define in terms of time is about 20 minutes outside of Manhattan.
Yeah.
So that's
where traffic.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's for sure. Yeah. So I grew up there, and it's I'm an old timer. I don't know, you probably don't realize that. I was born in 55, started playing in 64. So as I was telling you guys before, I guess the broadcast, you have any kind of historical questions or whatever, I was already playing. I was gigging in 1967. So
I don't know what I know what they're putting the water there in Jersey, but I wouldn't have taken you for that old. So good on you.
Yeah. That's the other thing. We're eternal teenagers. We're just not, the boomers.
Yeah.
You can boomer us all you want, but we're just not giving in. We're not.
Hey, so Joe, can I just say you've got like the perfect radio voice too?
Oh God, yeah. Oh, totally.
Oh yeah. If you want to, but I'm not going to compete with James Earl Jones and Oprah Winfrey and everybody.
No, it's
else
a different.
Friggin' glomming onto this stuff.
No, it's a different thing.
It's not enough that she has her own magazine that she's on every friggin' cover. No, she's got to do every female voiceover that you see, like anywhere. Nature specials and stuff, please.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, you do though. You got like the perfect, like it's perfect.
I briefly looked into that. And actually that was one of the things is I had to look at what do I want to do with the remainder of my life. And doing voiceovers was not it. It's basically acting without the visuals.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is the guy who's got to read the disclaimer for the law firm or the financial firm or whatever. It's
and speak like 100,000 miles an hour.
No, I want to do.
Yeah.
Guitar, I've been a guitar and a bass slut forever. It's you don't know.
It's the best kind of slut to be. That's for sure.
So yes, I took us down this rabbit hole. Like we just completely took a left turn. Maybe we start over again.
I'm good for the rabbit holes. It's all stream of consciousness.
But I didn't even get to the resemblance, like a young Dr. Johnny Fever a little bit. That's kind of going on, but a young Johnny Fever. Not that anybody even knows who the hell Johnny Fever is anymore, and I'm showing how old I am.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. So let's rewind for a second. Let's talk about where you came from. Yeah, there we go.
New York City. Yeah. Boy, I just it's funny because I come from an engineering background. That was the first thing that I did was I used to design machines for 3M.
Cool.
Post-it notes. I did the machine. I worked on the machines with Post-it notes and stuff. And I loved engineering, but I didn't like designing stuff for like Armstrong tile and stuff. And the money sucked. The money sucked in the 80s. The guy. Picture this. In 1984, the head engineer at NASA was making $55,000 a year. This is the guy who puts stuff in space. The head engineer, $55K. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, I got involved in actually the insurance industry, but in the whole time, I've always been doing some manufacturing and doing projects and engineering projects and stuff. And in 2008, I met the M part of M&V, which is Dennis McPherson. He'd been building guitars. Actually been building guitars for Oscar Schmidt.
Cool.
Which is a really old guitar company that was based in Jersey City and actually also had locations in Newark. We got together. I got together with him to learn, how to build a bass. basses and guitars and stuff. And it just worked out really well because I have a pretty heavy engineering background, so it was kind of more, we got together almost as equals, and I just learned all the things about how things are done with guitars. But yeah, so that was in 2008. We were together for a couple of years, and yeah, 2008 was a lousy year to start a company. I don't know if you remember, but so had a little financial issue that year.
Yes.
And yeah, so I switched to bass in '67 from guitar, and I've been playing bass for really actively all that time. I played professionally in New York when I was younger, and then some semi-professional work. And in 2013, I was, up until that time, I had been playing a Music Man Stingray 5, and Stingray 5s just sound great. It could do almost everything that I wanted a bass to do, but it couldn't do everything. And it's a beautiful guitar, but there's other, like, kind of, being a real guitar slut, I like other shapes too,
Right.
So I just wondered what would happen if you put Music Man type poles into a P, because P basses sound great too. They just do. They sit great everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the standard. So I just on a lark, I just decided, let me try and do this. I knew a guy who played P bass all the time, and I made a set of pickups that had 3/8 inch diameter pole pieces, and they were centered instead of the offset ones. And it sounded,
More immediate attack, definitely.
the attack was fantastic. The range was way broader. A lot more thump. A lot of, as with bass, with all kinds of music, a lot of stuff is psychological.
Yeah.
It's really almost entirely so, and your ears play tricks on you. And that pickup just turned out to be so versatile. I had guys who wanted to. One of my first customers was a James Jamerson type player over in Manhattan, and he was playing like Motown clubs and stuff, and he wanted it to do that.
Well,
and I mean, it's the absolute opposite of any P-bass pickup that was ever made in the 50s.
Oh, for sure. But I can see that working, especially when you're, if you have a little bit of sponge underneath the strings and you get with that muted thing. I mean, I would imagine that, it would just would cut, really accentuate that pick attack,
Yeah, it's almost an idealized attack because, Jamerson didn't have centered poles. So
right.
He had an Ampeg B15 and a P-bass.
In a weird way too. I mean, if you think of like fretless bass players, like Jocko, for instance, you're playing, the jazz bass pickup in a lot of ways isn't the best pickup for fretless because again, the strings riding in that void space. So low string energy types of techniques like ghost notes and slides and just aren't really getting picked up the same way.
It's a whole. That's the other thing is you also run into issues with where, because slap and pop was a big thing in the early 70s, largely not
Brothers Johnson, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So the Atlas pickups are great for that, for everything but slap and pop, because it's so percussive when you whack it. It's you really don't want it for slap and pop. So I mean, they all have their different purposes. But for Motown Jamerson type stuff, it sounds great. And then I've got other guys who are playing metal with it. There's like guys in France who are playing metal with this thing. So, but it worked out to be a great bass. So then I did a jazz bass pickup after that, because jazz bass pickups are, again, a whole different thing. And it's great for slap and pop because they're not that strong.
Right.
But I needed something that the other kinds of players, the non-slap and pop players, would be able to use and sounded fatter. So I've done a whole bunch of things in that direction. So it's a split coil jazz bass pickup. That's the Supertone pickup, and it's really it's very close in a lot of ways. The architecture is very close to a P bass, like
but just end-to-end coils instead of being
yeah. So that and then all kinds of other things. Another thing is I like, again, because I come from a science and an engineering background, I like, there's a lot of kind of old wives tales well, I mean, on the internet. There's all kinds of stuff. One of the things that kind of drove me crazy early on was the people were always talking about full contact bass bridges.
Yeah.
For the amount of energy that you are hopefully transferring to the body, you want as little steel or metal, anything brass there as you can possibly have. Otherwise, everything stays in the strings and nothing. And then you have people discussing about does body wood matters? Body wood matters if you don't have a 15-pound bridge.
Right.
like a 15-pound bridge, all the energy gets arrested. It gets reflected back into the string. You're sitting on the edge of your bed, you're playing it, and it sounds really good to you because you hear the ringiness of how much it's sustaining. But then when you get in a band mix, you have no mids. All the mids. That was the problem with the modulus bass. It's too stiff. Freaking thing is too stiff. But anyway, so.
Well, you remember, back, I remember especially in the 80s, Warwick, the sound of wood. And then after I owned a bunch of Warwicks, and, I dug the way something, they're very dry, but a lot of this, so in reality, it should have been Warwick, the sound of a really heavy brass bridge and tailpiece, because you would go remove that bridge and tailpiece and they weigh nothing at that point. You just assume it's the density of the wood.
Yeah.
Right. It just kind of control, especially, there's different dynamic ranges essentially in the treble register.
It's really a balance. Every bass
kind of balances it a bit.
Yeah, it's a recipe. It's really a recipe. Yeah. And that's another thing, is that there's the whole thing, and all these schools of thought coexist on the internet.
Right.
The schools of the neck through. I want 15 laminations of, I want Purple Heart. I want Wangy. I want Zebra Wood. I want that. And you know what the sad reality of life is? The really plain woods sound the best.
It's true.
It's just the way it is. It's the way God made it. Alder sounds great. It just does. It may not be anything to look at.
And granted, it's a different thing, but if you think of, something like great handmade classical guitars as an example, I mean, those things are basically, braced just as much as they need to be, and so they're pretty much walking that fine line between being, so fragile that they just fall apart under the string tension, but strong enough that they're going to transmit as much
they really live
as possible.
Acoustically. It's a whole different thing. And that was, there's the whole thing with Steinberger and modulus and all these, and it's, people keep coming back to the most basic recipe is best. The other thing is bolt neck basses really do sound more like what most people think a bass should sound like. If you do a really stiff bass, it sounds like a piano.
Yeah.
And that may be cool in your bedroom, but in a band mix, it's not going to sound. For most of Western music, the bass that we expect to hear, you don't want to be hearing a piano bass. So that it turns out to be a great recipe. That being said, I'm always trying to do something else. So one of the other things is floppy low B string. A lot of people complain it's just flaccid. There's actually a really simple remedy, and do you know what it is? Nobody does it. Nobody does it.
I've been putting together my own sets of strings for probably the last 20 years. Once I figured out their how different the string, how out of balance the string tension was, where basically, let's say on a 5-string bass, the high D string, usually like at a 45, 65, 80, 85, 105 set, usually the high D string has the most tension. And as a result, it kind of sings the most. And then everything else in comparison, by the time you get down to the E, even the E, it just starts, it has a different timbre to the point where you have, so by the time you get to the B, it is a floppy, nothing is, it's about half the string tension at that point. That's what I think. And I've just seen,
oddly enough, what remedies that, and it doesn't change the string tension, is to reverse. If you got a 4 on a side headstock, you reverse the headstock. So just recently we started doing all if it on 5-string basses, reverse headstock. It looks insane.
Kind of the Federa thing where,
Looks
you,
wrong. So,
like kind of like the Federa thing where you see what they do in like so like the Mike Pope signature bass where the B string actually just goes further. It basically goes to where the like traditionally
right. Yeah, that's the thing is you want the longest overall string, but the funny thing is it doesn't change the tension. It changes how the string oscillates.
Well, this is definitely something that could be debatable because I've definitely have done some experiments with that with length at the headstock, but also like length at the bridge to the tailpiece, that sort of thing.
Oh,
So
big time.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
same thing.
so it's one of these things where it I don't know. To me, like just balancing the tension, at least like in my experience with it, just for what I'm looking for. And again, it's different for everybody in terms of what we're hearing and what we're going for.
Yeah.
Uh, it didn't make the kind of difference I was looking to make, but I totally get it. You know,
Yeah. It feels very different. It was more
yes.
focused is what I found. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, big time. I mean, and I think you end up getting some different harmonic content too.
Yeah.
Just especially if you think of like floating bridge guitars, where you do have those longer runs,
Huge difference.
or if you go this far past the nut, it's wound around a post, that simply because it is going to vibrate on the other side of the nut to some degree, and that will translate. Yeah, it just kind of, that's just gone, so totally makes sense.
Yeah, so that kind of thing. Another thing is slightly shorter scale basses. 32-inch scale bass gives you a lot fatter bass tone. So I do a JZ bass, which is it's my humble update of a jazz bass, but it's got a 32-inch scale, which makes it feel a little bit different. You feel like it's a race car, basically.
Oh yeah, really easy to play. Nice.
Oh yeah, it's a whole different
tension.
Yeah, but it's also a much, again, because it's not really short scale, it's medium scale, but it's a much kind of thicker tone. So 32-inch scale is another thing. And then we do other things as well. One of the things is a bird on guitars, a Birdland scale that's retrofittable for Stratocasters and Telecasters, because there's a lot of players who are not really physically big people, and there's a lot of female players. And I looked at it, and there's really nothing on the market that's really all that small. The shortest thing is a Jazzmaster guitar. It's 24-inch scale. So a Birdland scale is another half-inch below that. So now, from a marketing standpoint, what I'm calling it is a speedline scale, because you don't want to, especially for guys, you don't want to be calling it the small hand scale. So
that's right.
So it's got to be speed, no small hands.
That's right.
But so that's one of the things, because a friend of mine is a guitarist, and she's 5'2", and she loves Fenders, but those are the Atlas pickups over there, the latest version of them.
Very cool.
She loves Fenders, but they all have 25.5-inch scale. So doing different sorts of things with that. Also doing P90s are really huge now, but the noise drives people crazy. So I'm trying to do the holy grail of, you're never going to get a completely noiseless P90 because of the resonance peak of the pickup of a single player versus a humbucker. But there's a lot that you can do as far as making it sound, have the snap of a single coil. Those are the supertone pickups over there. But there's a lot that you can do as far as just getting rid of the noise and keeping a lot of the things that people like about P90s. Plus, a lot of it is people just love the look of P90s.
Oh, definitely. But they're again super punchy, but they still good definition, but they still have lots of body. Very cool.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're pretty big on doing my own pickups, simply because in my mind it's a thoroughbred instrument if you're making your own pickups. And I mean, I'd be happy to put Lawler or Fralin or whatever else in it, But to me, it really should be your own. I mean, the pickups are really the heart of any electric guitar or bass.
Especially a solid body. Totally
Oh,
agree.
yeah.
No question about that. No, it's true. It's neat because it's just that extra level, uh, in terms of really putting your signature on it, as opposed to just being a vehicle for some pickups you got off the shelf.
Yeah, it's just assembling a bunch of a bunch of parts from different suppliers, and there's a lot of that going on. So everything we do everything here. We have our own injection molder, make our own molds, build everything from the ground up. Go out, pick the wood. Actually, because there's so much woods here. Well, you're up, I think, in Maine. We can actually do some necks from wood on the property here, which is something.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it really.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was what you're looking at there was the M7. That was yeah, there you go. P basses sound great. I'm always looking around for what hasn't been done.
No, is this like chambered or anything, or is it just?
No, it's not. It's not. It's just very light.
Cool.
Yeah. So that one is alder. That's 2-piece alder.
So nice. You found some nice light alder, basically. Nice.
Yeah, alder. Yeah. It's
alder can be very light. Yes.
It's a P bass, but it's got some other upgraded appointments. It's got a Cocobolo fretboard.
Well,
it's got a bound neck instead of a bolt on.
Well,
like
that's what I thought was really cool as I was looking, kind of perusing your site. There's so many makers out there. We all know who they are, who will make what's essentially a jazz bass, and save for the headstock looking a little bit different. There nothing else really seems to be different, at least on the surface. Where you definitely have really made some cool designs where you still get the gist of what the essence of it is, but it's got its own thing going on.
Right. Well, there was a lot of what when Dennis and I got together, it was to do sort of a bunch of parallel, besides all the problem solving kinds of things that we like, parallel universe designs for manufacturers of the 50s and 60s.
That's totally cool. I was exactly thinking that I've used that term before. I was hoping somebody else would say it and not me. So very nice.
Well, that's really what it is, because I mean, again, as a guitar slut, I just about love them all.
Yeah.
So one of the things, if you can go over to the Jay-Z bass, where is that? There it is, Jay-Z bass. That shows. This is the kind of thing that I just love to do. That shows a regular jazz bass and a Jay-Z bass next to each other. The Jay-Z bass is a little more offset. It's got the 32-inch scale. It's got the reverse headstock. It's got Johnny's active electronics. It's got an asymmetric taper neck. And you have to change your pants after you play it because it feels pretty amazing.
Well, it's got a really cool design. I mean, it has like a lot of forward motion to the design, and it looks like you have a lot clearer, a lot like the access to the upper frets looks better as well.
Yeah. And we'll do them as cheaply as $2,000. I mean, obviously not with East Electronics, because East Electronics is $300 a pop. So, but
he's kind of a genius himself.
His stuff sounds better than anything. I tried his stuff in the first time in 2008, and I was sold. So any active stuff we do always has Easton, unless you want something else.
Well, I mean, especially considering the some of the projects he's been part of, it's almost like he's overqualified to some degree to be doing what he's doing, which is really great.
Because he's a nice guy. Do you know?
So nice.
You know the name of where he is? I always
Bumble Clumps.
Bumble Clumps. Hempstead. That's right.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Picture like sheep wandering around outside.
I suspect he has like probably like a gravel 1-lane road passing it with like all kinds of, I'm picturing hedgerows,
driving around in a Morgan or something. Oh yeah.
I'm sure that's what it's like,
Yeah. Nice guy too. Yeah.
Super nice. Like every time I've ever had the fortune of speaking with him, if I've had like some sort of question about something or whatever, he's just been great, really nice dude.
Yeah, spend as much time as you want. Yeah, he's been great for me.
Yeah. So Joe, we sort of got into this, what you're working on, and I was just kind of curious, like what brought you into it to begin with. So, you know, you got like that, every story we've heard so far anyway on these episodes of this podcast, you know, everybody comes along and they've got their own unique, you know, story for why they can't, you know, why they started, you know, building what, you know, what was your story?
The shorter story was I love cars and I love guitars, and I was actually involved in some stuff with internal combustion engines back when I was doing engineering work.
Mm-hmm.
And guitars are I mean, first of all, they make music, which is like everybody loves music. It's the rare person that does not totally get off for music. Guitars are gorgeous. Electric guitars are voluptuous. They're eye candy. You want to look at them, you want to touch them, you want to interact with them. And the other thing is, there a lot that got me into it was it's a lot easier to build a guitar out of wood and some pieces of plastic than trying to do stuff in stamping out sheet metal and stuff.
Oh, good Lord.
Or casting engines like that. So casting's way more expensive.
I can see that.
Yeah. So this, it was this, and I mean, to go way the heck back, when Beatlemania hit in 1964, I was in New York City. I think I think it was probably fall of 64. Coming up through Macy's, there were beautiful mannequins, I think, from Madame Tussauds of the Beatles, the original Beatles with the Rickenbacker and everything. And I was with my sister, I think I was like 10 years old. And I said to her, I wanted to make a Rickenbacker 325 like Lennon had, really bad, because I couldn't afford it. I could not imagine going to a store and, you know, I'm 10 years old, go out and buy a Rickenbacker.
Another very short scale guitar.
Oh, really short. Oh, yeah. Really tiny little thing. Yeah. It's funny. When you think back on the instruments that they came with, they were like out there.
Very much.
Everybody, the Ventures were playing, you know, Strats and Jazz Masters and stuff. And the Beatles come over with friggin' Hofner and, you know, this hollow body violin bass. It was just odd. It was just real odd.
Yeah.
But so that's way back what got me into it. And then I just love them. And there's actually a lot that has not been done.
Agreed. With
guitars and basses, and it's not super high tech. I don't have to develop a new storage modality for electric vehicles or for space truck, because I don't have that kind of mental ammo. I'm a technologist, but I just can't do that kind of thing. A guitar pickup, that I can design. I can do plastic molds. I can do all that stuff. And that's it. That's as high tech as I want to get. So it's easy. I mean, you know, we can do all the molds right here. Some of my biggest challenges with COVID was getting friggin' plastic pellets.
Oh,
yeah.
God, yeah.
Molding. Yeah. And it's and a lot of it was because of, think what you may about them, a lot of it was because of Texas. Because Texas had the storm and all the plastics didn't get made. And now it's like a worldwide plastic shortage because the people down in Texas stopped making them for us.
Wow.
So yeah. But that's what got me into doing basses and guitars. Yeah. And bass players are far more adventurous than guitarists.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, like, I think like every guitar player kind of like, you know, like, oh, I need a Strat, I need a Telly.
It's got to be cloth covered wires. It's got to be form var on the coil wires.
Yeah. They need certain things for their arsenal to do certain things, where bass players are way more into, I find, to you know, kind of like sculpting their own thing generally, you know.
Bass players, I mean, just much crazier bunch of people. Really, it's and much more adventurous as far as the kinds of things that they'll do and buy or whatever.
And thank goodness for that.
Yeah. And I mean, the really funny part is that it's for an instrument that most people, it's almost invisible, you know.
Well, like Well, like you had said, you had switched from guitar to bass. I mean, like what kind of drove that for you? Like
I'll tell
musically,
you,
was it a musical thing or?
nobody wanted to play bass. In 1967 is when I switched, and everybody wanted to play lead guitar, and nobody wanted to play bass. So I switched from guitar to bass. I was really getting into Paul McCartney at that point. Lennon was my first guy, and then in '67 it was like, hey, you know, Paul McCartney's really pretty cool. So, and I love that the 4001 lousy sounding bass that looks beautiful. So I had one of those. I had one of everything. But yeah, so it was that. It was you know, and then you could a bass player, you could always gig because nobody wanted to play bass.
Yeah, I mean,
It only got really cool when you know, like Sugar Hill Gang and stuff like that, when like you started having like when bass started happening and like people wanted to hear bass, you know. It was much later. But he was usually the kind of the fat guy in the back, you know, who's just kind of thumping away on his telly bass or whatever.
I've been the fat guy in the back for a long time. I know what that's like.
I'm built much more like a bass player than a guitarist. You know, I play a lot of lead guitar now, but yeah, I look, yeah.
It's kind of like distrusting a skinny chef. I almost distrust skinny bass players. I wonder what's going on there. No, I'm joking, but
really
it's not
good point. It's a really good point. I hadn't really thought of it that way.
Yeah. It is a whole different function though. I always like wonder, you know, especially like personally, I found that it turned out that I was actually really listening to the bass parts more. And at the time I didn't really even know what it was. I thought it was like maybe it was organ or something.
It's another way
you
of
know?
dividing the world population. You know, people who gravitate toward bass, people who gravitate toward the high end stuff. The other thing is, I think every middle-aged guy secretly or publicly wants to play bass. It's like I think there might be like maybe 3 or 4 who don't, but every other middle-aged guy wants to play bass. It's the funniest.
Well, especially, I mean, granted, I mean, like the band I play with, we've been using in-ear monitors for like ages now.
Yeah.
But it's like, but back when, you know, I would like you have to tow around like an actual SVT and like another amp for dirt.
1610.
It just right. It just, you know, you hit a note and you know you hit a note. And it just
vibrates. Outdoor concerts,
it's
the best. It's the best.
It's like when you hit a baseball in the right place. It just has that, you know, crack and that feel, and you just know you got a hold of it, you know, and it's a feel thing.
It's a beautiful, it is a beautiful, it's really gotten a lot more sterile with the in-ear. And I mean, granted, it is really pretty cool. Historic.
Oh, it is, yeah.
You know, just flip this around because you guys are so much younger than me. Think about this. The Beatles played the first outdoor stadium concerts with no monitors, and they sang 4-part harmonies for Nowhere Man, spot on with no monitors.
Well, and you know why that is, right? Because, you know, Jesus, they practiced, you know, over and over and over again. They just did it. They you know, it wasn't just like, oh, I got it right, let's copy paste it, you know.
Oh yeah, no, everything.
What am I wearing? You know.
Yeah, it was. It became a part of you, but
definitely.
So I know what you mean. Yeah, the in-ears are, it's a blessing and a curse, you know.
Definitely, it definitely feels different. I mean, for sure. I mean, it's
especially for a bass player, you want to feel it. I remember when I was a kid, I used to go see. I saw a lot of ZZ Top.
Awesome.
And Dusty Hill's bass was the only one where I could, every time he was just playing 4th notes, but every time you could actually feel your chest being moved by it. It was like,
just great mixes with those guys.
Used to play that telly bass. Oh man, that was a good band. They were loud band. But so it's there's a lot of great stuff out there. The other thing that's interesting to me is there's a lot of young guys are really interested in this, even though the commercial airwaves are filled with, oh God, you wouldn't even call it. It's not even EDM anymore. It's electropop, I guess, is what it is this week.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know. I'm so.
I force myself to listen to it. I do. Actually, my daughter played Chance the Rapper yesterday, and it was a good tune. I actually really liked it. I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. But it's amazing. I played with some guys in their early 20s this weekend. and this keyboard player is like he's playing like an old guy. It's like really weird. It's like he's playing like old standards kind of stuff, which I haven't
Wow.
seen. Most guys were just patch masters before this. You know, you had a whole range of keyboard players who were just, you know, they just
See,
basically screw around with loops and things.
to me, this kind of sums you up right here. I mean, obviously, you can't have the same kind of passion about making post-it notes, right? You know, so when you devise a way to, you know, produce
Oh
post-it
God,
notes, no one's going to sit.
you
You
know,
know, what kind of conversations can you have about that affect your life in any
you know,
sort of significant way? Not to take anything away from post-it notes, because we all use them for some things,
it's
you
a
know, for sure.
wonderful
It's a
thing.
wonderful product, right? But
It really. Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you, if you want to be creative, engineering is not. And actually, nowadays it is, because I got out of it in
right,
the '80s. But because robotics and stuff is really pretty cool, but none of that stuff existed in the '80s.
right.
So yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do.
Yeah.
Um, you found out when you would design a machine, they really weren't looking for creativity. They were really looking to, it was always the sales engineer would come in, and he would give you something we've never quite done before, made for next to nothing, shipped in an impossibly short period of time, that fit in a closet. So it was like, and then, so the
It
sales
sounds like art.
and he's
Yeah.
like, okay, and you lived and died by the contract. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
just throw this thing on your desk.
Yep.
And then you're just working for the next year or however long the project is, like a maniac. And you
Right.
can't literally make any mistakes. So anyway, it was
Good
a whole.
Lord. Well, great. That's the great thing. So now you can take that technical know-how and actually apply it to something you give a damn about.
Yeah,
You
and if
know,
I screw
that's
up, it's my, you know, it's something I
right.
screwed up myself, you know. So
Yeah, that's super cool.
yeah, yeah. We know.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably know. You don't want to screw up a really beautiful piece of wood. I mean,
Right.
Right.
almost no worse punishment than that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm the guy who like pretty much I save, like, you know, actually I save all the offcuts. Well, that makes some really nice, you know, inlay
we
or
all
something, you
do
know.
that. We
Yeah,
all do.
you know, goes in the pocket, you know, then you get home and you forget, and like, oh, why is there this piece of wood in my pocket? Oh, I remember now.
When
You know, so
my kids were young, they used to the one especially, she really loved, like I do, like I had like waterfall babinga and stuff like that
yeah.
around in slabs, and she would have me make stuff out of it on the CNC, like earrings and things.
Oh yeah, well, it's such a
Yeah.
nice, dense, pretty wood. I mean, even plain babinga is beautiful. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
It's hard to get bad looking babinga.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's another thing. Is that, yeah, I mean, it's you know, why do you make guitars? It's such a sensual visual thing. But the other
Totally.
thing that I fell in love with is was it Pale Moon Ebony? Have you ever worked with that?
I've seen some. Yeah.
That's some cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So I have a fretboard I want to do in that. But yeah, there's just
Well,
go ahead.
but no, I was gonna say, but that's it though. You said it. It's a sensual sort of thing. I
Very
mean,
sensual.
it really is. I mean, like I there's like a lot of guys out there that are doing things where you can see that there's, you know, definitely like an industrial design kind of background to what they're doing, where they're
Yeah.
using like lots of different materials, like, you know, things like, you know, carbon fibers and different metals, and combining it with like live edge kind of woods, which is really cool, and I love that stuff. But I can just say that, like, you know, for me personally, I just don't think I'd find the same kind, like, I wouldn't get excited about, oh, hey, here's a billet of, you know, aluminum, you know, just, you know.
Yeah, it's, you know, and I
it's
mean, you know, it's, yeah, I mean, we all know it's been tried. I was with Travis Bean. I just saw one of the original ones for sale for like $39,000 or
yeah,
something.
insane. Yeah,
it's certain. That's another thing. Certain materials should, from an engineering standpoint, work really well, and they just
don't.
And I mean, there was also that whole school of thought for a period of time, and actually it probably still exists, is that the only thing that matters is the pickups. It's really, you can make the body out of like plexiglass, you can make it out of anything. The only thing that matters is the pickups. Believe me, it matters big time. I mean, you know that as a builder.
Oh, totally. I mean, there's definitely like a pie, I think, involved, and I think ultimately, And again, like you said it earlier, where like the plain woods tend to be the best woods, and I think
Oh yeah.
some folks get
I
I
had
mean,
it.
you know,
I had a hard on for a day, if I can say that on podcast.
well, you just said it, so there you go.
Dan Armstrong basses, the Lucite bass,
Yeah, yeah.
worst sounding bass I have ever played. Followed shortly thereafter by a Rickenbacker 4001. Just no no mids at all. It's just all because the body is just too dense, just way too dense. Plus,
Well, right. I mean, next time you get a hunk of acrylic, give it a good plunk, good thunk, and see what it sounds like. It just
nothing.
kind
It
of
sounds like nothing.
yeah,
It sounds like flap, flap, flap.
right. So
Yeah.
sounds like a like if you make a cutting board out of material that's sort of like that, sounds like a freaking cutting board.
Yeah. So it matters. It matters a real lot what the heck they're made out of. So yeah, and it who what's another inspiration? Leo Fender. Leo Fender is my hero. How did one guy come up with so many amazing, iconic designs that really were not exactly like each other?
Right.
Ellie is not a Strat. A Strat is a masterpiece. As far as in the world of guitar design, for me, the Strat is the masterpiece in electric guitars because it'll do just about anything, and it has.
Well, that's it. I mean, like in a sense, I mean, even as he, when he thought he was dying and he sold Fender, then started Music Man after his non-compete was up, and
and
then eventually G&L. Just if you think of like all those instruments, and they're all archetypes.
Oh yeah, and
basically.
You know what? I mean, it hasn't. I don't know why it hasn't hit yet, but G&L are friggin' great.
Oh, they're amazing. Yeah,
they were that was his coup de grace. They were really completely developed out Fenders.
Yeah,
they were really exceptional. Those
totally agree. Yeah, well, and again, like the finish of them too. I mean, where you like, especially things like the way the neck pockets fit and that sort of thing. You get the idea that on some level, it rather if they were or not, but the tolerances are so much better that it seemed like that they were fitting a neck to a neck pocket like you would if you're making one instrument at a time, as opposed to having a line of necks and a line of bodies, and
very much a factory operation.
Yeah.
And they still make great sounding instruments.
They do. I mean, actually, even the the overseas tribute stuff is amazing too for the money. It's pretty nuts. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah. And then you get people like Jack White who made some incredible music on real trash. And you know what the funny thing is? I don't know if you know. He is now playing like PRS.
Well, he was playing some EVH guitars there for a little bit too.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
He's more than a one-trick pony, that's for sure.
He is amazing.
Yeah.
Jack White just blows me away all the time. Yeah. Super creative guy.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure you've seen. I'm sure everybody's seen. What do you call it? It Might Get Loud.
Yes. Oh yeah. So like when he grabs like a mason jar or like a beer bottle and a plank of wood and
he starts playing slide on it. Yeah.
Just throws it together with some nails. Insane. Yeah.
And that's the other piece of it. Like from a luthier standpoint,
it's an improvised guitar.
Oh yeah. People like poorly finished guitars now.
Yeah,
which really brings down the cost of doing a guitar, because I mean, most of your expense is in your finish. Everything else is pretty easy.
Well, I know, like we were talking, like where you live is kind of a touristy place, and like where I live, I mean, there's a it's pretty affluent in places, and I know back, I think maybe like starting maybe like 20 years ago, there was this real trend towards like distressed furniture, where furniture that was like purposely distressed. Folks would have a beach house and they want a table as a brand new table, but especially it just looked like it had been there forever, that sort of thing. That's kind of the mentality, I think, with the guitars, but they have a certain feel. So for folks that can like make it distressed to such a degree that it looks natural,
in the right way. It's got to be. Really got to. Honestly, some of the distress jobs look just absolutely ludicrous.
Well, right. You start examining and you go like, okay, you can start imagining what they did to get that.
No way you can play a guitar that violently. Like take take care of a guitar that poorly to get it to look like that
Yeah.
in
Well,
any form.
Well, right, and that's kind of the thing. I mean, especially as finishes changed and became more durable. I mean, because ultimately, I mean, like nitrocellulose is actually a great finish. I mean, like they're making cars with nitrocellulose because ultimately, if you have yeah, I mean, they put
Yep.
that early on, like in the 30s, 40s.
Oh, I thought you were saying they were starting to make cars with nitro lacquer again now. And
No. But in
Oh, I
terms of
know.
like so much
Well, I was
easier
a
to
body man. I
yeah,
was.
so
I'm a
right.
licensed auto body mechanic, among
But right,
other things.
but you agree, like so much easier to spot, like if you get like a bad spot,
Oh
so much
yeah,
easier to like
melts
fix a
in.
spot and blend
Nitro's
it
great.
in. Where with
Did
the
you
newer
ever
more
work with nitro lacquer?
oh yeah, I mean
It's
it's
it's you can't possibly feel healthy and work with that
no,
stuff.
oh god,
It's like with the thinner and stuff. It's like as soon as you catch even a little of the vapor, your head is just like,
there's not enough filtering in the whole world, right? Because
oh
it's gonna
yeah,
come in through your
yeah,
pores. I mean, everything
yeah.
is just
I'll
yeah.
tell you, I fell in love. That's another thing. We do all our own finishing. It's all water-based acrylic
Oh,
lacquer.
that's cool. That's super cool.
And acrylic lacquer to shoot is exactly the opposite of all the stuff you had to do for nitro lacquer. Exactly the opposite. It's a rainy day. Yeah, great day to go shoot water-based acrylic and lacquer.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But the thing is, nitro lacquer is what drink coasters were invented for because it's a lousy protective coating.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was trying to get to is the fact that a lot of the reason why the guitars that came from the 50s, 60s, 70s, look the way they do is just because eventually
Yeah. Yeah.
that finish just dries up and flakes off.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
just isn't going to happen with a modern
No, no.
polyester or whatever it is finish. It just isn't going to happen.
Actually, one of the things that I want to experiment with, and I mean, it's a win-win. It's a win-win-win from a cost and user standpoint, is actually just shooting testers enamel on unprepped wood. I mean, I'll prep it,
Sure.
like as far as the sanding and everything, but for the kind of look that people want now of like, old jeans or whatever, that's all you
Well said.
need. I mean, I used to be in love with Rickenbacker's finishes because they're gorgeous, but
Yeah.
a lot of people, I mean, they're derided as dentist guitars. Like PRSs are dentist guitars, which is yeah, they're kind
Well,
of in the
Well, in a way, I mean, it's sort of like we were talking about earlier, how like a guitar is kind of like a piece of art, or like as you start comparing the design to cars. I mean, in a way, there's a certain point where a certain level of workmanship with like these really beautiful woods, and it almost becomes like you're buying a rare photograph to hang on your wall, and very often a lot of these guitars that are purchased for the way they look sometimes do end up just hanging in a wall and not getting played. Which
have either of you ever seen the Red Queen, the Red Queen guitar?
I haven't seen that, no.
It's, I mean,
I'll
unbelievable.
check it out.
I don't know. Do screen. You could actually check it out yourself. If you just
I'll check it
Google
out.
Red Queen, you'll pull it up. It's a marquetry guitar, Marquetry. It is stunning. I guarantee you, it sounds like crap because the amount of glue involved in it. But to look upon, and the planning is just, I don't know where or when you would ever play this guitar, but maybe Prince could get away with it or something, I guess.
So that's actually a really good segue into, I think, probably the last question, or as we're wrapping up, is what's next for you? So I mean, you sort of alluded to some of the things that you're wanting to do. What's next for you and MV? Like walk us through that.
Loads of stuff. I actually have a list of a few things here. Want to start doing my own bridges, because
Cool.
I can cut aluminum. I'm not going to cast aluminum, although I had a friend who used to do it, but it's not something I really want to be doing here. Because I like really stiff lower mass bridges. Also, I'm fascinated with the idea of doing a bridge where the actual saddles are bison bone. So it would be like a tune-o-matic adjustable bridge where the saddles are all bone, because bone is a stupid expression that I have, is something had to die to make tone that good. So
Fair enough.
So bone bridges, I like handmade, unbleached bone bridges. But the only time you're hearing the rather not bridge, the nut. I like unbleached bone nuts. But you're only ever hearing that when people are playing open strings.
Yeah.
Except for on acoustic guitars, which is, again, it's a whole different animal. Nobody's doing bone bridges or bone saddles or anything like that. So it's I got to try it. I have to do it. A quad coil, a splittable quad coil that's retrofittable, probably, and this is something I'm working out in my head, probably retrofittable to a Music Man, because that's the format that it would fit in. But the thing is, the Music Man pickup sounds great, and also it's a real oddball pickup because the output on it is very low. It's actually very low, low voltage. It does put out a low resistance. It's a pretty low resistance pickup. All the power is coming out of their active electronics. So I'm trying to figure out, do I want to do it for a Music Man, or do I want to do it for Music Man size pickups like in an Ibanez? Because Ibanez, everybody learned on an Ibanez. All the younger guys learned on Ibanez's, sound gears and things like that. So I would like to do a quad coil where it can do the Music Man thing, which has two, complete four pole bobbins, but is also splittable internally, where you can actually turn it into a P-bass pickup internally.
So you can effectively get sort of a no-hum single coil-ish sort of sound.
Exactly. Yeah. So the idea is when like a Music Man, you could go series between the coils. You can go parallel and get that scooped out thing. And then instead of going single coil like on the Music Man, where it's just one of the coils, it's actually a P coil inside the Music Man enclosure. So that's another one that I wanted to do. The split coil P90 is one that I got to do. I really need to focus more on advertising, because it's more kind of a mad scientist thing up here.
Well, but it sounds like you're really good at the mad scientist thing. So maybe you just need to get somebody who can just deal with the advertising thing for you, so you can just be free to be a mad scientist. Right? I mean, that's
it's like I said, I'm not like I'm a mad scientist for guitar circuits and things like that. Not so much for electronic storage or social media or things like that.
Yeah, well, we understand that. I mean, like Eric is definitely like the business mind here, and I have none of that. So together we almost form like pretty much like a complete brain,
Single brain. That's right. That's right.
Complete or not, that's debatable, but a single, yes.
Yeah, and it's they're all different skills, but I'm really having to flog myself to learn to get into that. So
yeah,
and it all takes away from the stuff that I want to do.
Right.
Sure.
Turn around with social media.
There's only so much time. That's it. Yeah.
Exactly. Only 24 hours in a day. It's
right.
Crazy. So
but luckily there is 8 days a week. So that's.
There you go. Yeah. That was the first song I ever figured out by ear.
Wow.
Yeah. When you find out that all sheet music is not transcribed correctly,
or any of it, maybe.
I was a kid. I was getting 50 cents. You got to remember, it's early 60s. It's I was getting 50 cents a week allowance. I go out and buy the paperback writer, the song paperback writer, the sheet music, and I bring it home and it's friggin' wrong. I was pissed, and that was it. I never bought sheet music again. After that, I was just ruining records, But 8 days a week was the first song I figured out how to play. Easy song. Good song. They did pretty well with that.
Well, I mean, honestly, you learned more than just that song when you learned that song. I mean, that's what's great about learning something by ear.
Yeah. I don't want to become the old guy lecturing you, but you guys. It's too bad that you weren't around for the British invasion and everything, because it was insane. It was a very different world back then.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Definitely missed out. That's for sure.
I know. I feel bad, So like when people say "Okay, Boomer," it's just like okay. I'm not
okay, Boomer.
Well, you get that kind of stuff, and I believe I'm not one of the people to like lecture people, whatever. But honestly, you couldn't believe how great stuff was. You could
Yeah.
be because I live close to Manhattan. We could be hanging out in the park, smoking dope in the middle of the afternoon, and they say, "Hey, want to go see the Who tonight? $3 over at the Woman's Skating Rink."
Jesus
And you go
Christ,
see
yeah.
the Who. It's like you didn't have to show up. You didn't have to buy line tickets. You didn't have to go up. No, you show up with your $3 and you go see the Who.
Wow.
Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy
Amazing.
stuff.
Good
Joe,
times.
we are gonna have to absolutely have you back on for another.
Oh God, we could go on.
Absolutely.
Oh, you want to go
Yeah.
rabbit holes?
We
This is all residuals from the late 60s. My friend used to say break off chunks. You can just kind of hit it.
we are absolutely gonna have you back on. So if you're up for it, we're gonna do that. We're gonna
Yeah, sure. That'll be good. I
that'd
like
be-
talking to, there's not a lot of people who you can talk to about this stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll just rename the show Joe's Acid Flashback.
Oh, yeah. It's oh, it was a very romantic time, boy, let me tell you.
Yeah, yeah. See, I like, yeah. I mean, I grew up like like it was like pretty much like late 70s and then the 80s essentially. I mean, different time, but
Yes.
luckily I had like my mom's records, so it was like Everly Brothers and
Oh, that was a whole
Yeah.
different thing. Yeah.
yeah, that sort of thing, and even like older like Elvis, or like I remember I had like a single for the Chuck Berry song My Ding-a-ling. I had
Oh, yeah. My Dilly,
hilarious,
that
but
was
I used to
actually
play that
around
over and over
early
again,
70s came out with
yeah,
that. Yeah.
live stuff is just fun stuff.
It was a whole different thing. People hitchhiked.
And didn't think they were going to get murdered, yeah, different time. Yeah.
No, it was an amazing, a really amazing thing. And the other stuff was to hear this stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah, remember it being new. I mean, that is crazy to me, just
the Beatles were like aliens landing. It was honestly like aliens landing. There
Yeah.
was music sounded one way before them, and after them, everything else just. But it was interesting. Recently, I saw a thing from Adam Levine of all people, and I know how much. I'm sure you're both huge Maroon 5 lovers.
You can
But,
tell. Yeah.
But Adam Levine correctly observed. He said the age of the band is over, and he's right. He's absolutely right. People aren't writing their own music anymore. It's not bands; it's all individual personalities. So it's like
I don't know. Here's my thing about that. That pendulum is gonna go.
It's always so cyclical,
It's
right?
gonna come. Yeah, it's gonna come back. I mean, you don't know when, but you can look at it like, hey, it's over, or it's just beginning, because it isn't being done. And you're in this entire new cyclical, kind of runaround. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
One thing that's interesting to me too is it seems like, especially, and it's mostly a United States thing, where like for instance, in Europe, as an example, you can like metal and you can still like pop music, and you can like one kind of music doesn't have to like not exist anymore just because this new music exists. You can like everything, but that everything here is so one thing at a time of the moment.
Because I think it's very high stakes now. Like, I mean, especially as far as because I was actually, when I was younger, I was actually always trying to break into playing, because I was playing in New York and everything, and you wanted to be a serious musician.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it here also has to do with posturing or something, like, or identity. It's like, yeah, I'm a headbanger, or like I'm like an alt rock person, or I'm a roots. It's some kind of like identity thing. But over there, well, I mean, it's always been like that. Hendrix had to go there to get discovered. Jazz is still popular, and nobody listens to jazz here, seriously.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff, it gets accepted over. It was like the Pixies. I don't know what you think about the Pixies. I remember when the Pixies came in the 90s, it was sort of like, whoa, what the heck? This is freaking awesome, and they just never caught over here. but they went to England. They toured England, I think, once, and they flipped because they were huge in Europe. They loved them. People knew the words to the songs.
Yeah.
But
Wait, if it's good,
yeah,
it's good.
Pixies, it took America a while to figure the Pixies out. Interesting stuff.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a different time, but it's really encouraging to me. Like, again, last Sunday when I was playing with these young guys, to hear him playing Wurlitzer. He's got a Wurlitzer patch on his synth, and he's like playing piano from like the late 50s, early 60s and stuff. And he's young. I mean, he's like what, like 20? He's like 19, 20 years old.
No, it's neat to see. It's neat to see that.
Oh, yeah,
it's encouraging.
Yeah, but it's now everything now stays. It's like everybody says, like, people were saying, it's the end of books. Everybody's going to be reading ebooks, but no, actually, ebooks stayed and books stayed.
Yeah,
it's like magazines. The end of magazines. Actually, there's more magazines around than there ever were. They're they're narrowly focused.
Yeah,
but there's a everything just stays.
Well, I mean, I know plenty of people who are like totally engrossed in like collecting records and listening to records again. Yeah, it's just a whole different experience.
Vinyl is like a stamp of affirmation now that somebody will spend the money on your music to have that thing pressed.
Yeah,
which is so ironic.
It is strange. Yeah,
but it really does sound better.
Yeah, but it's more like an event too. I mean, right? You get the record and you just want to like go and put your headphones on and read the liner notes the first time you get it, and like really get it engraved. Before you even listen to it, you see all the pictures and the art, and you already get kind of an idea of what's going on. You don't get that. It's everything's so piecemeal and quick now. It's just a different thing.
Yeah. It's funny because it's sort of supply and demand. And now that we have an oversupply of all forms of media, it's sort of devalued all of it. So it's like,
well, like Eric said a couple minutes ago, I mean, the pendulum will swing back the other way.
I can't wait.
Something that has value like that will always come back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, for me, I was a fusion player up until I was playing fusion jazz, up until I heard "Free Fallin'" by Tom Petty. It was, so I think that was 80. What year was that? 80, was it the 80s? 84, 85, 86. I heard "Free Fallin'" and I'm like, how can I want to hear a 3-chord song all the time? It's not Alan Holdsworth playing a million scales. It's not Jocko. It's the simplest music, and it just absolutely hooked me. And it's because of what it makes you feel. If it doesn't make you feel anything,
that's where the rubber meets the road, right? If it has to elicit some emotion.
I was over. I saw a crazy night. One of the last fusion shows I saw was the Dave Weckl band. I don't know if you know who.
I totally know who Dave. Yeah,
Dave Weckl, and it was Vital Information, Steve Smith's band with Frank Gambale on guitar.
I've seen both of those drummers in clinics before. I'm a bass player who loves drum clinics, so I totally get that. Yeah.
Okay. They come out and it's 11/10 right from the beginning, and at the end of the show, all you can say, it either makes you feel like I either want to give up playing or, man, I've got to practice a real
maybe a little bit of both.
But the crappy part is you walk out of the show and you can't say, oh yeah, remember that one song? It was like, yeah, you can't remember any of the songs. I'm a long-time musician, and you can remember a couple of cool things that they did, but it's just sort of like, it doesn't make you feel anything. That's what got me out of fusion. It's like, and it's a competitive sport.
Yeah,
it is. I wanted to be the greatest bass player. When I was coming up, it was Stanley Clarke. Stanley Clarke was who I was competing with. Music shouldn't be a competitive sport to me, So, and that's what got me out of fusion jazz and all that nonsense.
Yeah, well, again, if it speaks to you, that's great. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
It's find what speaks to you. Though. It's exhilarating. Seeing a good fusion band playing it's definitely a testosterone thing. I
Oh, for
remember
sure. Yeah.
I saw, I think it was Bill Frisell trio, and which is, I mean, a pretty laid back trio. Honestly, I just looked around in the audience. If you want to get girls, don't be playing jazz. The audience was all there was all players, all just like looking. What scales is he playing? What kind of equipment is he running? Looking at the flow of the show, looking at the, it's no, it's what, if it doesn't make you feel anything, what the heck? It's just, you're just moving air.
Yep.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
I
So
think
that's what got me out of fusion jazz. Tom Petty.
I think that's actually like the best wrap up you could have, right?
very much.
Petty.
Say, hey, look, if it doesn't make you feel anything, you're just moving air.
Yeah.
We're totally pulling that quote, by the way. We're gonna put that in the podcast.
Oh,
beginning.
thanks.
So
Thanks a
that's
lot.
cool. It's very cool.
But it's true. It's
Yep.
true.
It's very
Music is to
true.
make you feel stuff,
That's
Not,
awesome.
not for me to dominate you.
Joe, we're definitely gonna have to have you back. This
Oh
was
God, yeah.
a lot of
Pleasure.
fun.
I feel like I've been rambling. Don't encourage me.
No, man. Like, so what we'll do is we're gonna edit it a little bit, and
You gotta edit it a lot.
no big deal, right? We'll
Yeah.
edit it a little bit. We'll clean it up a little bit,
Sure.
and
Pick
but
out the foul language. Yeah.
it's good. This is good stuff.
Seriously, I always say, like, if like, once I stop talking, that's when it gets good. That's definitely the case. So
Oh yeah.
Well, hey, so Joe, you were talking a little bit about like social media thing and like
Yeah.
promotion and all that kind of stuff. So anything that we can do to help you promote this,
oh, for sure.
let us know. Promote your shop, like what
Yeah.
you're doing, that sort of thing. I just shot you an email too, so you can take a look at that. But yeah, anything we can do to help you, I'd
I would
love it.
love to check it.
I need all the help I can get because I am a media infant.
I would love to check out your pickups too, for sure.
Okay.
I'd
Yes.
I'd love to try them and play them and see what they compare to. Because
Yeah.
I'll send you a set.
Do you have dealers for your pickups? Or you just
No,
like,
it's been all direct. It was,
Yeah.
I just started selling in 2013, and this is really when I'm actually able to fund what I'm trying to get done here now, because it was looking pretty good in 2008, and then then the crash